Okay, folks, so I'm going to use the textbook as a guide for course instruction, so it's going to keep me on track here. But I'm going to do chapter 1 right now. And regarding basic HTML syntax, I'm assuming you have the WebD 162. If you don't, just take a good look at what the book author introduces, because I don't want you to feel anxious about the level of HTML here. There's not much involved. So when you look at this is the introduction right here, but when we go to the actual section, you will see, here we go, getting started with PHP. So basically page 2 is literally going to talk about just entry level HTML and basic templates. Okay, now if you haven't done this before, just take a look at HTML5 templates. You can find plenty of them online. And he talks about creating an extensible HTML page. That's, even though this book was released in late 2016, which it was, he's using a relatively old document type here. At Mesa College, we like to do HTML5 only. So there will be a link in this week's materials that will point you to basic HTML templates. And that said, you can follow those and just work with the instruction as I work. So when you look at my videos, the HTML that I do, you can just take, as you can with all my code. But when you see the template, it'll make a little more sense to you, and you don't need to get worried as much. Okay? So let's talk about the tools. You're going to need a good text editor. If you take class on ground at Mesa, you know that we use brackets in our computer labs. I'm going to be using Sublime. I've got all my notes here for us, but I'm going to be using this text editor called Sublime. It's very popular among developers. It allows you to install packages, but it's also very, very simple to use. So I'll be using Sublime, and I will be also using it for our course instruction. Let me just close this stuff out. I'll be using something called MAMP, and MAMP is the little elephant you see below, and I'm going to open him up right now. And part of your homework this week is to install a local server. Now you can install MAMP or XAMPP. Some of you may already have it installed if you've had me before as an instructor. MAMP is fine. MAMP actually can work on both Windows and PC. I mean Windows and Macs. Here's my local host for MAMP, but this is we'll make sure that everything gets started okay. Notice I have a slow connection, but you'll see this is a web development solution for both Mac and Windows. Feel free to use it. XAMPP is also an excellent version. That's what we have on campus at Mesa, but they're very similar. I would say that it's a little bit easier to use MAMP if you have a Mac at home. But regardless, they're very easy. I've posted videos this week that show you how to install both. So don't be concerned too much about it. But the way our workflow is going to go is we're going to have our website on something called localhost, and when I open up my MAMP control panel here, you're going to see that I have my Apache server turned on and my MySQL server turned on as well. So this is just a quick overview. I do want you to be comfortable in the fact that I literally have a 15-minute video about MAMP and XAMPP alone. And there's another 25-minute video in this week's folder that just focuses on XAMPP for PC, since my video focuses on Mac. So you'll be covered, and just be sure to ask for help if you need it. But more about our text editor. Sublime is free, and right now we're in version 3. So if you want to download it and work on the same system, feel free to do so. You can just click on the build and open it up, and basically that's what I use for all my editing. So you're going to see a lot of that. I'm using the default theme, so it'll have white text on a black background, but you guys can use whatever you like. It's fine. It doesn't matter to me. I find it easy, and if you want it to be seamless for when we work, you'll be in great shape. Okay, so I'll be constantly using XAMPP with MAMP. When we get to the database part of the section, MAMP has its own database, and let me go to that real quick so I can give you a quick preview. I'm going to click on the GUI here. The address is my PHP MyAdmin. And this will be our database, and the same will go for XAMPP and all of them. So eventually around week 7, we'll talk about databasing, and you'll be required to have a database for your final project. So good times ahead, and no worries, okay? I don't want anyone to be intimidated by this. This language was literally built for artists who maybe didn't have programming experience. So the gentleman who invented it is a guy named Rasmus Lerdorf. Pretty cool guy. And one of the reasons he wanted to do this was because he wanted to make server-sided programming accessible to more people. So he is sort of a guy I really admire for bringing programming to maybe people who before had been intimidated by it. So in fact, it's quite a good language. So right now, in the first few weeks, we'll be using our local server, and here it talks about using FTP, and eventually we'll be using FTP in about 3 or 4 weeks if you haven't used it before. If you have, you can skip forward in this little video, but I'm opening up FileZilla right now. It's the little red icon you see here, and you can download FileZilla. It's an FTP client, and it's a good one. I've been using it for quite a while. It's free, and you can download it. One thing I would tell you is not download the server, just download the client for whatever platform it is, and then you will get the same functionality that I'm about to show you. So basically the way FileZilla works is you get this interface, and right now you can't see above my screen, but I'm clicking Site Manager, and I'm just going to log into my own website. So basically the interface is the websites on the right and the local files are on the left. And you'll be working inside here, and these are the files. Again, this is nothing but a quick overview. I don't want to scare people off. So don't worry too much about it, but let's say I want to just edit this. I can go ahead and click on it and open it up. It's a PHP script. It's probably an API script for getting the weather, and I can simply, it's a JSON feed, cool, and I can simply edit, save. Here, watch this, I'll save it, and FileZilla will ask me if I want to re-upload it. I'll say yes, and then it re-uploads. So that is a little bit about FTP. Now if I were to go to my website and go to mm214.com, get weather.php, you would see my functionality. So there's the JSON feed that I just pushed out. So not a big deal, but we'll be using FTP later on in this course. Now let's get to some code. Okay, I am first going to get some materials here, and I'll make sure I upload these for you. This is WebD 166 week 1, and I'm going to throw them in my applications and in my local server. So I'm navigating, I'm looking for htdocs, and what I'm going to do is paste these things inside 01. So this is WebD 166, and I've got a few scripts for you. Okay, so let's create a new script. I'm going to actually do one that's even easier, and all I'm going to do is create a new file, and I'm going to save it to my local server, and we can take a look at it. So I'll go to my applications, which is where my local server sits, and this will just take a second, I hope. It would be sad if my Finder crashed. And now it's looking at my applications, and I'll go to the MAMP folder, and we can work from there. Okay, so I'm just going to call this simple PHP. I'll do .php. So first thing, for PHP to work, you need a PHP extension. So PHP would tell the server, hey server, I'm going to be parsing some PHP code in here. Okay, so that said, let's go to this in a browser. So this would be called localhost, which is my local server, and we'll do simple.php. Whoops. And you see nothing, which is what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and create a less than, a question mark, and then a PHP. This tells the server that we are now in PHP mode and only PHP code can be inside this area. So I can add a comment, only PHP can be inside here. Okay. Now, if we hit refresh, we will not see that comment at all. If we view the source code, we will not see the comment at all either. PHP is invisible in your browser's source code. Important concept here. That makes it a wonderful solution for password protection. Okay. Now let's type in something. I'm going to use the word echo, which means to output or print. And I'm going to say, hi, class, just like that. Oh, this happens with the trial version of Sublime. It'll come up if you're unregistered. It's about every 100 times that you save a document. So there, I've gone ahead and printed hi, class. Very cool. It works, right? So how does HTML get into this section? Well, HTML can modify this within the quotes, like this, H1. And in this case, if I hit refresh, you'll see that I get styling of HTML. And that inspection will output, check it out, my source code. So I don't see the source code for PHP, I don't see the word echo, but it will actually output the HTML. So think about this for a second. What else could I do? Well, I could easily go back to H1 like this and add the quotes around here, or the H1 tag around the outside of PHP. Notice how I'm not in PHP at all, but will my PHP be modified? Yes, it will. In fact, let's try an H5. We'll do an H5 and an H5 for a small header tag. Now when I hit refresh, it's going to be smaller, but still bold. So what happens is that HTML works very well with PHP. You just have to follow the rules when PHP is open. So let's talk a little bit more about simple PHP. You can have words in HTML outputted in quotes. Now these are called strings. Okay, a string is a combination of words and letters that are inside, or numbers inside quotes. So what I can do is make it a double quote or make it a single quote. Both of these would output what I need. So I have high class again, and you see it works fine. But if I open up a string with a single quote and end it with a double quote, watch what happens. No bueno, I get an error. Nothing happened. I get an absolute, see it says the page isn't working, localhost is unable to answer this request. Well, how would I find out about this error? Well, I'll tell you what. MAMP is a great thing, so is XAMPP, but I can go into my MAMP folder right here and go for my logs and open up PHP error log, and you can see the log at the bottom will have my error, and I can take a good look at it because that was what we call a 500 or fatal error. And let's take a really good look at this. I'm going to go ahead and reload to the bottom here, and it looks like June 17th, syntax error, unexpected high class, T in caps and white space in simple PHP line 5. Now that error message was a bit cryptic, but if I go back here, you can see, you know what, they're right, it is line 5, and that's my error. Anyway, so what we'll be doing throughout the course of the semester, the summer course, is just running PHP in our localhost until we get the hang of it. So I want you to feel really comfortable with practicing this stuff, okay? Now I'll be back with a couple more videos this week, and these videos will be hopefully very simple for you. We'll cover chapters 1, which we've just done, and then we'll cover more on debugging in chapter 2, which is variables, and then in chapter 3 we'll do HTML and forms.